Welcome everyone. Happy Thursday. Sure, Christy, I will reiterate because we do have the registration page open for two events now, August and November. So let me go ahead and share this link here. If you haven't heard of any of these, there we go. The first one, Elite Advisor Academy. So that's coming up in August. That's going to be 100% live stream, 100% free. And it's a 3-day event. What I try to do is always kind of spend a good amount of the time talking about kind of best practices when it comes to the model, CPA relationships, working with big clients, anything changing in the industry, and then also touch on the opportunity that I'm seeing out there, the timeliness of the year. So August is different than March, is different than November. So we'll talk specifically about how to kind of set a plan for August and then the remainder of 2021. And then I try to have a couple guests on with me. It's predominantly myself and probably Jenna through the event, but I will have a couple guests on with me to just add to some of the context of the discussion. So that's the Elite Advisor Academy. And when is that? August 18th to the 20th. So free, it's virtual. You do have to register though in order to get the login. So just go to that page and register. The other event we have coming up in November, this is the first time in a year and a bit that we're doing an in-person event again. We used to do quite a few of these. So I'm excited post-COVID to get together in San Diego. It's a 2-day event for both advisors and accountants, as well as any other guests actually that you want to bring. I know we already have some staff members signed up. We already have some attorneys signed up. So the Elite Growth Academy is $495 in person. We will also do it virtually, so you can attend, but either way it's $495. It will offer CPE credits for your CPAs. And I'm telling you, after doing this for 7-8 years, there's no better way to accelerate the relationship with a CPA than to get out of your mutual bubbles for a couple days, come out, spend some time with us, partly because we'll lead the conversation, obviously, in the direction we know you want it to go. And then partly because it's just like, how do you build relationships? You build relationships by spending a little bit of time together, getting to know one another, maybe having a drink or going out to dinner. So we try to facilitate and encourage those kind of activities too. And the number of times, Christy, I'm sure you've heard this too, because you've been to, probably, I don't know, a dozen in-person events over the last 3 years. The number of times I've heard an accountant or an advisor say, I've got a list of 5 or 6 people I'm ready to talk about just as a result of hearing the speakers. So I think it's a really great way to help accelerate the relationship. So those are the 2 events that I just wanted to make sure we touched on, Christy, one in August and one in November. Besides that, look forward to any questions either about the events themselves or anything else going on that we can help with while we are here together today. So let's start it off. I see 1 or 2 people already unmuting their lines, so that's awesome. We can help there. The other thing is, if somebody is talking but you have a question, just type in question into the chat box. That lets Christy and I know that you're up next and you want to unmute your line. And if you don't have a mic, or if you prefer to just type, then type the question in and we'll be sure to get to it like that. So with that said, let's jump in.
Cool. I don't have any questions so far, so if anybody wants to kick it off, unmute your line or let us know what you want to Hey, Eric, I see you unmuted. Did you want to get it started?
Yeah, thank you. Hey, so Anton, the thing that I am currently running into, and I've been like brainstorming on it, is that the number one, it's so hard to put quite into words, but the number one thing that CPAs struggle the most with is not actually bringing a team of specialists on. They like that idea. The biggest subconscious hurdle that they face is switching from reactive to proactive thinking. That's what I'm brick walling up against right now. Could you just comment on that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Can you elaborate from your perspective? I think you're onto something, but can you elaborate from your perspective when you say they struggle from shifting from reactive to proactive? Where do you see it breaking down? Is it a mindset? Is it time? Is it clients? Is it not having a process? Like, just give me a little bit of context to run with.
I think it's the category of thought in their brain. I don't think that they have a category for what proactive even means or looks like. And here's the example. So it's mindset. Here's the example. My CPA partner that knows me and trusts me, I've known her for years. He signed the agreement, went through the third meeting, and she goes, okay, I have a client for this. And cool, here's the outline, here's what you want to say. She didn't want to role play it, but I said, just send this email. Okay, great, sounds good. I get back from vacation and she sends an email that says, oh yeah, the client didn't want to do it. We'll just have to look out for other opportunities in the future. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. So do you know the email that was sent and like what the communication was, or is that literally where it stopped?
That's literally where it stopped. I went ahead and set a reoccurring weekly appointment with the CPA, but I haven't followed up. Yeah.
Good. So obviously we're shooting in the dark a little bit, but I can tell you just from experience where there's a couple things that could be done. And it's never like we blew the opportunity. It's even with that client, but certainly not the CPA, but it's kind of like, well, we need to do it a little bit different moving forward. So the first thing I would encourage you to do is have the CPA BCC you on the email communication that's sent. Now, they may or may not be comfortable with that out the gate. Eventually, we want to get to the point where they're CCing us. So like we're looped into the communication from the beginning. If they're not comfortable BCCing us, I would ask that they forward me a copy of the email after they send it, because I want to see, and you can position it like, you know, I just want to make sure that I'm maximizing the time and energy I'm putting in with my coaching group on this. And I just want to make sure I'm giving you any feedback that we can improve the numbers on. So likely what happened is you provided a template, right? Okay. So that's, first of all, like everybody here, always provide exactly what you want them to say. Not like tell them, like provide them either a script that they're meant to read, or if it's an email, we provide them the template of the email. So that's first and foremost. Second, when they sent this email, they likely changed something. I want to know then what happened once that email got sent in order to like, so that's the beginning. The end was, oh, they're not interested. We'll have to look out for someone else. What happened there? Like, what was that communication where a client said, oh, you're going to offer me more proactive and holistic planning? No, I'm not interested. That just doesn't happen. You know, unless it's like 1 out of every 100 oddball scenarios where a client's literally doesn't want a more proactive and holistic relationship with their most trusted advisor. Like it doesn't happen. So there was something where a client either said, what does that mean? Or there was something that led to the CPA sharing more than they should have, or miscommunicating the value. And then the client feeling like, oh, I'm busy, or this is ultimately going to lead to me being sold something, where they decided they weren't comfortable, or the CPA just jumping to that conclusion. So I'd love to see if there was an email exchange, like forward me the trail of emails. I'm not necessarily saying forward me, but if I'm working with the CPA, I would ask them to forward me the exchange of emails. And if it was a phone conversation, I'd say, you know, give me a little bit of detail on what that communication was like, because this is really, you know, pretty unusual that you would bring an opportunity to a client to offer more proactive and holistic planning with a team of professionals, and they would say, no, I'm not interested. It's just very strange. So I I would bet money on the fact that it was a breakdown in some kind of communication. The CPA was making assumptions. They probably said more than they should have, meaning they like tried to sell them on something up front.
Yeah.
And we just need to refine that communication so that doesn't happen in the future.
Okay, so
and then
I
we
don't need to get into, I don't need to get necessarily into the psychological elements per se of reactive versus proactive, more just address the process, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this one doesn't sound, I'm sure there are some mindset issues that are leading to that result, but it's hard. I'd like to see the actual communication that happened. And then I think you can reference, once you see the communication, you could say something like, you know, just from other conversations I've had with CPAs, the community that I'm a member in, one thing that we see often is that CPAs do X, Y, Z. Whatever it is that you've identified as the problem, CPAs do X, Y, Z. And it's not your fault by any means. It's just the years and years of conditioning you have in the industry. We need to let go of that outdated way of thinking. Because what we're doing is we're now strategically making a decision that we're going to be offering more proactive and holistic planning to clients. It's a different experience. So we need to communicate in a different way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, good. So I think your summary is still spot on, which is they think this sounds great. They know this is the direction they want their practice to go. But what does that actually look like in terms of the day-to-day and also the communication with the clients? And that's why it doesn't bother me at all. It's like, you can't expect people to change like that. You know, you have to understand it's part of the process. And so what we want to do is just acknowledge they at least took a step. Like, good job. They reached out to a client to open the communication. So they took a step and then they probably fumbled. And then they're like, oh, client's not interested. That's not actually what happened at all. You took one step and then you fumbled. It's a new experience. Like, next time we'll take 2 or 3 steps, you know, and then after that, 5 or 6. Pretty soon we'll be up and running with a new communication structure, but it does take time.
Wow, that is such a more optimistic way of looking at it and it's just like what you're talking about with us, celebrate the small wins. And man, it's so much more gracious to the CPA and gives them such more of a chance to just be human. And it's like a 2-year-old when he's learning how to walk, he's gonna fall on his face and then you get back up. Doesn't mean that his whole life is ruined.
I literally was thinking about my daughter like stumbling around the house as I was using that analogy, but you're spot on, Eric. That's right. And you just got to recognize, like, for us on this line and also for the CPAs, like, there's years and years and years of doing something in one way. And so relearning that takes time. If it was easy, then literally every CPA that read an AI CPA article or, you know, any of I just saw this one right here from Michael Sims, he posted earlier today, CPA trend lines. Like, if it was easy, a CPA would just read an article like that and they'd be like, oh, that's all I have to do? Great, I'm done, my firm's ready. It's not that easy. It's like, if being in great shape was easy, everyone would do it. Like, most people know you got to eat healthy, you got to exercise. It's actually implementing those types of disciplines and, you know, new routines into your day-to-day life that actually then makes the change in the weeks, months, years ahead. So yeah, I don't feel discouraged for you in the slightest. I'd still feel optimistic that they took some steps. And I think from here, we just say, okay, now we just need to make some little shifts. And in a month from now, you're going to have another little thing that they do. And then you're going to have to, it's like part of that like leadership role that you're in if you want a relationship with a CPA to thrive.
Okay, that's terrific.
That makes sense?
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Anton, the question or the kind of the connection I'm making on that is, we talk to the CPAs as coming alongside them and being their partner, but oh, by the way, I'm going to need you to be coachable in alignment to what I'm doing. So what is it that I could study, or what's that transition of that fine balance of that. Am I on the right track or?
Yes, yes, you're spot on there. And I think that's one of the harder things for advisors to kind of understand is, like you've heard us talk about, you don't want to put the CPA on a pedestal where it's like, oh, just toss me a couple of referral crumbs a year. Like that's a very outdated way of thinking of it. So, but at the same time, like you don't want to take an overly aggressive role as well. Like this is the way you have to do it. And if you don't do it, like you're terrible, you're failing. So it is much more of that. There is the partnership aspect, like we're coming along the side. But what you need to recognize, Leah, and what they need to recognize is, although you're coming alongside one another, like you guys are investing the time and you paid us to teach you a process. So this is your process that you're leading them through. If you get out of the driver's seat, it's like the two of you are going on this journey together, but you're in the driver's seat and you have a map. So like you're definitely going on the journey together, but they're not the ones saying, hey, Eric, like I just spent this money to get trained on how to work with an advisor. I've got this process. I've got some systems. I've got some specialists. Like, come along the ride with me. No, it's the flip side. It's like, we recognize that both of our industries are changing. If you guys want to be profitable and relevant and deliver more value to clients, I have a roadmap where we can do that together. But like, I need to lead that relationship. And that's the kind of, I think, the refined role of the advisor is not overly pushy, because a lot of advisors are, but at the same time, persistent in leading that CPA.
So
Does that make sense, Leah? Yeah.
Yeah, I love the, we're both in this, on this journey together, but I'm holding the map and I'm in the driver's seat. So that's key. That was beautiful. Thank you, Anton.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just pulled this image up on the screen here because this is visually, this is the way I think about it every time I'm building a relationship is, here's the client. They're coming to us as a team. And I like to refer to it as the proactive planning team, right? The advisor is the planning team lead. The accountant's really bringing the trust, the credibility to the table. The advisor is the planning team lead. And then they are, or you are, allowing them to work with you to plug into an ecosystem, some of which you may have built on your own. And obviously anything that you don't have, you can plug into our ecosystem or our virtual family office.
So I have a different situation, I guess. Well, it's the same idea because it's the question, I met with a CPA that I bought a small practice and they're the CPA to some of the owners of businesses, right? So they in the past had referred out these businesses for simple plans. So I went and visited them for the first time, and in some ways, he's a potentially perfect CPA, maybe, I don't know what perfect is, but let's say potentially he's got a lot of the right clients. Let's say that's the case, and he's the go-to guy. But he's also aloof in the sense that he thinks he really has his complete act together and has his own ideas on things. And I'm also coming in as really not talking to him because he wanted help, but talking to him because he's the CPA to clients I have. That said, he's open, but it's kind of like you don't really quite know how far to push things. And then he started talking to me like, well, I'm looking for someone who, like, he was looking at me as the financial planner who he could send planning people to because he doesn't want to do that anymore. So so you get that, I was thinking about you as this and wondering if this is what I can do is to send you people that I don't want to do. And he starts talking about how he does a one-page plan and asking me how much I would charge for that, and so you're not quite sure how far to push things because like you say, you don't really, you're starting from a baseline and trying to move it in a certain direction. But what that direction is, you're not quite sure. You're kind of sure, but you're not sure what you can get away with.
Yeah.
You know, it turns out he's part owner of one of the businesses that I was talking to, that I talked to the day before. So I'm also trying to, you know, in the process of trying to figure out who's doing what and what I'm allowed to say, right? When I go talk to the owners of the businesses and him and in general. So it was an interesting whole couple days.
How old's this CPA?
He's probably 57-ish. He's in my age range. So he's,
And
oh, and he bills. Another thing is he bills. What are the different ways they bill? I think mostly he charges like an annual fee,
okay.
and people call in when they need him for various things, and he charges based on the level he thinks that they are.
Yeah. Okay. And have you gotten to the point where you had the full meeting number one script conversation?
Yeah, but I don't think it went full script, honestly. I did what I could, and then this next meeting was more of a trying to get more together, but I think the best
about
I
any of
could,
these, like challenge, you know, what would that be? What's stopping you? So he gave you a little bit, but he kind of dismissed some of it.
yeah, essentially, I don't think I followed the script well enough. That's part of it, part of my problem, I think. I did get him to commit to that I could meet with, he was no way gonna meet on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Once a month is basically what he was willing to check in at. And even that, even as it is, I'm not even sure I want to spend too much time going after him, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. Yes, that's kind of where my head was going, is there's a lot of indicators that suggest it might not be a great fit.
Yeah,
But
like there's
I would
business to be had, but
yeah, but there's business to be had with, I mean, almost every CPA. You know,
right.
that doesn't excite me much. What excites me is when they have the right mindset and they're looking at you as a partner that's bringing value to the table. And they're like, where have you been? Why are we just meeting? I'm so excited to be working together. That's what's
that's
promising.
not him. Right.
So, but I don't know that you have properly got to the point where I think that's not him, but I think you also kind of probably shortchanged it a little bit, meaning what I would love to do if I was in your shoes, and this might just be fun, because it sounds like, Peter, you're already kind of agreeing with me that it's probably not the ideal relationship that you want to spend a lot of time developing. I know you've got a couple CPAs already that you have been putting time in, you are starting to get some work. So, you know, you're not desperate, like you don't need this guy. What I would do is I'd probably reach out to him and I'd say, you know, been thinking a lot about our conversations, talked with my community a little bit. I feel like I shortchanged you a little bit in that initial meeting. And here's what I mean. I don't know that I got a really accurate sense of where you are right now in terms of your challenges, where you want to be in the next 12 to 24 months, and really kind of what's stopping you. And just shine a spotlight on those things and see if he's willing to go there, like actually remove the ego and kind of show the Superman cape that a lot of the CPAs like to show. Like when they pull off the, you know, the button-up shirt and they're like, we're CPAs, we don't. It's like, yeah, that only works until you really understand what's going on in your industry and what 95% of their businesses are like. Once you understand that, you're like, oh no, it's less Superman, it's more Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
So let's have an honest conversation to figure out, literally, like, are you Superman? Like you got it figured out. You've got good revenue, good work-life balance. You got ideal clients, or is it a little bit more Wizard of Oz? And obviously you can't say it like that directly, but the point is, like, a lot of them are not willing to go there unless you really stop, create that space, and just allow them that opportunity / use some silence to make it awkward if they don't, go there. And that's probably, if I was in your shoes, I would probably look to try to reset the playing field and just spend like 20, 30 minutes on those 3 questions and see if he's willing to actually open up. And you could give some examples about, based on CPA trends lines, based on your work with Paul Latham, like the industry is shifting. I know you're already slightly ahead of probably the average firm, but are you where you want to be? And if not, tell me like what's not there.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, I know he's too busy. For sure, he's too busy.
Yeah. Yep. That's always a very predictable one to go to,
Yeah.
and which is good. I mean, so how do we put in systems and processes where you duplicate your A's and your B's and you offload your C's and your D's to either a junior accountant, or you package it up, you sell them. You got to do that by obviously making up for that revenue somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we do that? I mean, there's all types of conversations we can have once he's open about what the problems are. And being too busy is an easy one to predict. So that's a good one to kind of have in your back pocket. But my point is this. So, and I say this coming from, I've been in a lot of meetings with Paul Latham. If you don't know Paul, he's one of my partners. I know you do, but he started, grew, and sold an accounting firm for $45 million. There's very few of us will sit down with a CPA or an accountant that's done that. So it's kind of like, as soon as you have him in your corner, you can now kind of say, okay, you're acting like the big man on campus, but really you're still like in junior high school is the reality. Like you're a great football player, but you're still in junior high, maybe high school, but like you're not in the pros yet. Like you want to get to the pros, we can help you get there. But let's just be honest, like your firm's not there.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's the idea. You never, you put someone up on a pedestal, or you just come up from the wrong direction, and you need to go back to the beginning and come from the right direction.
Yeah, come from the right direction. And then ideally they're humble enough to say, because it doesn't matter like how good you are, there's always things you can learn. There's always things you can improve, So that's part of the approach here is, if they're willing to be honest enough to say, this is my vision, this is what I'd like, this is the challenges, great. Like we've got the team that can help you go from a good high school quarterback to a great college, or a good college to the pros. But there's always the next level. And if they want to play at that level, then they've got to remove their ego and have an honest conversation about where they want to go.
So let's say he doesn't go that route. How do you, because you still got clients together, right? What do you do?
Yeah, if you got clients together, that's fine. Like obviously you don't want to burn bridges, but I would probably say something like, I've really enjoyed our conversations and an opportunity to learn a little bit more about your practice. I can see why X, Y, and Z clients are happy with you. For where I'm at in my career and the types of CPAs that I'm building relationships with, this isn't a good fit for us to move forward in the team-based model. However, I look forward to continuing to work on XYZ clients together.
All right.
Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I wouldn't go down the path, and this is, I'm kind of belating this point a little bit, but it's for everybody else on the line too. I wouldn't go down the path where you don't feel good about the relationship. If somebody's like, oh, once a week or I'm too busy for that. Maybe I can meet once every month. And you're like, okay, once a month. It's like, no, man, they just took all of the leverage. You just gave it all to them.
Right.
And it's kind of like, whatever you want, I wouldn't go there. I would just say, I appreciate that that's probably how you've worked in the past. I know there's a lot of advisors across the country that would be happy to agree to that. It's just not what I want for my practice. I'm really looking for CPAs that are willing to invest, at least in meeting every other week, if not every week, to bring that proactive and holistic planning to our mutual clients. So it's probably not a good fit for us, but, wish you the best.
Right. And I'll continue to work with you on the clients that we have together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I just wouldn't get in a situation where you're agreeing to take anything less than what is what you want. Because it's just another example of
and I think that's
Go ahead.
it's good for these other guys to see that too, because it's like, because in your back of your head, as a planner, you hate to give up anything, right? That's just the way we've always grown or been. And then once again, it's like you look at it like, okay, is it really the perfect person? No, it's only perfect if they're willing to work with you, no matter how many good clients they have, right?
Yeah, and you want to work with them.
Right, and you want to work with them, and you don't really want to be jerked around, which is what I ultimately see happening.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, that's exactly my concern from this dialogue so far, but good stuff.
Anton, I know Joe has a question he asked at the beginning of the call. I think he sent it to you directly, but it was about helping CPAs get their ideal clients. Joe, I don't know if you want to expand on that question a little bit, unmute your line and we can discuss that.
Sure, thank you. Good morning. So I met with a CPA yesterday. We did his CIQ last week and went through, he just had fun and put on all kinds of things he was interested in. And our meeting was about prioritizing those for the client, but he's currently getting the kind of clients he doesn't want from a big firm that's all floating onto him, the stuff they don't want. And he doesn't want his business to, it's okay for now because they've only been self-employed for 2 or 3 years. It came from a larger firm, but he doesn't want to continue to repeat that kind of business. Is there a way we can help him find the better business owner clients as opposed to take the ones he works with now and add more value?
Yeah, there is, but I would think, or I would suggest we approach it as in a two-prong approach. One is, let's take the clients we have right now and look for ways to add more value to them, offer more proactive, holistic planning, generate more revenue, get introductions to the ideal types of clients we want. So first of all, there's the opportunity to service the clients that are currently in our backyard.
Yeah.
And I think with most CPAs, that represents a huge untapped opportunity just because there's been so little focus on holistic planning. Simultaneously, we can absolutely be intentional about attracting new clients that are the kind we definitely do want. And that just, in my opinion, requires more intention behind it. I don't know if you're a member of Elite Marketing Platform, but we've got a couple campaigns built for CPAs that they can use to kind of create interest from the ideal types of clients, business owners, high net worth individuals, those types.
Yeah, I'm not part of that.
So that's worth, because there's a 14-day free trial. That's worth you and the CPA probably taking a look together. You could sign up just to get comfortable with what some of the campaigns are beforehand. And that would be a really helpful tool.
Which webinars are you referring to, Anton?
So there's the one that's, are you a successful business owner paying too much in taxes? That's a promotional, like, what is it, probably 10-minute video. And there's a sequence of emails and social media posts that go out before that. Then there's another one that probably will be done by early next week called the 6 Key Aspects of Business Success. And that's just an educational email series with videos that are attractive for, successful business owners. So those are a couple examples. And Joe, what I would suggest is, going back to your question, I've got a little intruder here. Give me a second. The pros and cons of
Christy,
working from home.
what was
Yeah.
that second one again, Anton, you had mentioned?
The second one that I referenced is we're actually just got an email update from the team this morning on it. So it's not live yet,
Okay.
Kirk, but it is called 6 Key Aspects of Business Success.
Okay, good.
Oh,
Yeah.
so then the last thought I had, Joe, on that is, so one of the things that we talk a lot about, if you've seen Paul at any of our past events, what he used to do in his firm is you got to set up some type of structure, because you can't let go of all of the unideal clients right out the gate. Like usually that's the revenue that's generating,
Sure.
or
Pays
that's
the
the
bills.
activity that's generating the revenue. So one thing that we've encouraged people to do is you set up a system. For every new A client you get, you let go of 2 C or D clients. Okay. Every client you get that's on a proactive planning schedule, you let go of 2 clients that are only willing to pay you a couple $100 for tax return. So what you do is you strategically work together that over a course of a couple years, you replace the revenue that you had coming from the unideal clients that were lower paying but taking a lot of time with clients that are paying more and more enjoyable to work with. And obviously you reduce overall the total number of clients that you have.
Right. I think, and just as a quick follow-up, when I went through the CIQ with him, I threw out some terms that I think, looking back, maybe I was trying to impress him, and I shouldn't have, because he asked about so many things, and I said things like, well, boy, it looks like there's opportunities for premium financing and cost remediation, and I don't know if it scared him. And I started thinking, maybe he's thinking, oh my goodness, if I send out CIQs and get in over my head, what's the support going to look like? Because we can say it, but until he's experienced it, it might be a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
So did I
Yeah,
shoot
I appreciate.
if I talk too much?
You certainly could have, and I appreciate the humbleness and the honesty there. It may have been an issue, it may not have been an issue, but that my answer right there really gives you the answer, which is you want to control the controllables.
Yeah.
There's enough things that we legitimately have to work through that you don't want to add to the difficulty. And doing something like, especially premium financing, because that's loaded with potential emotion if they're, then it's, large life insurance cases. Oh, he just wants to sell my clients large. Maybe that could have been a thought, or cost remediation, whatever else it is. The point is, we don't know what happens when we use those types of terms that might trigger something in them. It could be exactly what you said, like, oh, those are a lot of things I'm not totally familiar with. Maybe I'm getting in over my head. I'd rather just back up into my comfort zone. So I would avoid using terminology. Yeah, I would just stay focused on really making it super simple. Both of our industries are changing at an accelerating pace. And if you look at what's happening in the Biden administration, it's likely that the change is only going to continue to accelerate, right? We've got all these new tax laws that are being discussed and tax rates, and there's just a lot of change. So both of our industries are changing. Does it make sense for the two of us to bring our skill sets to the table together with a team of professionals behind us to offer more proactive and holistic planning for clients? Like, is a client better served when we work strategically together or when we stay in our individual silos? Super easy question. Better served when we work together. That's why family offices exist, and wealthy families pay a couple $100,000 a year to have a team that actually communicates. So that's easy to answer. And then, does it make sense for us to try to duplicate that type of experience? Well, I mean, it's not a huge investment of capital for them, but it is an investment of time and just relearning a little bit of the communication pattern and the way that they're going to deliver value to clients.
Great.
So,
Thanks, Anton.
yeah.
Appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, my pleasure.
A couple questions have come in over the past few minutes. I'm just going to go in order here. Brian had a question about lumpy mail, so I want to give you the opportunity to ask your question there, if you'd like. If you can't unmute or your mic's not working, you can type it into the chat box as well. Well, while you're working through that or typing it in, we'll get over to Ralph's question.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Oh, hi, Brian. Yep, we can hear you.
Yes. Sorry about that. Hi, so I'm new to the group, guys. Only the past few weeks I've been devouring the training, as fast as I can. And one of the things that I've implemented in the last couple of weeks here at my practice to start building a list was having each of my advisors during their meetings start to get accountant information from our current clients and even potential new clients that we're meeting to start to build that list out. But one of the questions that I had was in regards to the idea of lumpy mail. And I was just curious to what everybody's opinion was on how that works and if it's worth doing, because I do like the idea. And I do have the idea of spending money on 200-300 kits and just slowly starting to send out maybe 5 or 6 a week. To help accelerate the process of getting us aligned with the right accountants. So just your opinion on that.
Yeah, so I can speak to a little bit. If you have any questions of whether or not it's worth it, I would spend just 15 minutes in the Facebook community and search either Tax Season Survival Kit or TSSK, and you'll see tons of people sharing not only photos and kits they've used, but also the results from those kits. And I think that will overwhelmingly confirm my opinion, which is they're definitely worth it. In week 2, there's a whole lot of material here. So just kind of a couple best practices. One would be, I would really encourage you to, I love the idea of thinking big, 200, 300, which is great, as long as with each one, you're making sure there's some personal touch. At a minimum, it has to say their first name and not just like a computer printed letter,
Sure.
Signed letter, something like that. But I will tell you, the more personal you make them, the better the results and the communication are going to be, significantly. So I would rather, if somebody had 10 hours, I'd rather take that time and make 20 kits than take that time and make 200 kits if the 20 are going to be more personalized than the 200. So that's part of the approach is less of the corporate, all of us get those lumpy mails from Allianz or from Advisors Excel or anything, right? It's how many of these books did they buy? Oh, probably. Yeah, exactly. You got 10, they mailed out 10,000 of those packages because they've got the budget, but it's that it doesn't have any soul to it. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to personalize it, because people build relationships with individuals. It's not, they're not building a relationship with Northwestern Mutual or Ameriprise or something. They're building a relationship with ultimately Brian. Mm-hmm. So I would try to personalize it. The best things that I've found, and you'll see some of these in the kit examples, are things that are relevant to either the time of year or what their experience is. So obviously an easy one is tax season, but even if it's summertime, it's something to do with the summer touch. And if you have an intern or a staff member, or you want to spend the time yourself, if you just find them on LinkedIn or Facebook or something like that, and you can find either a hobby or a school they went to or a school their kids went to or go to, anything where you can add a personal touch, it just takes your response exponentially through the roof. So those are just a few of the things I would suggest. And then
one of the things that you talked about in the training in regards to getting down to the number of accountants that are going to have a productive relationship with you is I believe the number that you threw out was about 300 contacts, right? Somewhere around there is what the goal is.
If you're taking the total KPIs, Yep.
Yeah, right. Total KPI. Okay, good. I just want to make sure I was tracking in the right direction on that. So that's perfect. That's all I needed, and it was a great answer. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Tony's saying, agree 100%. We have already capitalized on 2 relationships made from the kits. That's awesome to hear, Tony. The other thing I would say, just for everybody listening too, Brian, it sounds like you've done your homework, so you probably already factored this in, but the kits themselves are just, they kind of jumpstart the communication, but I think the real effectiveness comes in the follow-up. So it's, you don't want to assume that they're going to respond to the kits. Some of them will, but most won't. So it's connecting on Facebook as friends, it's connecting on LinkedIn as a connection, and then following up either with email or private messages on any of the platforms that they're on, and then ultimately calling if they're not responding to the email sequence or the social media follow-up. So just,
Okay.
I would encourage everybody to keep that in mind. It's however many you send out, you want to make sure you have the time, or you have an intern or a staff member or somebody, ideally on your behalf though, that is doing the follow-up communication with them as well, because it's going to probably take multiple touches.
Perfect.
Anton, we have a question from Ralph next. If you want to go ahead and unmute your line, ask your question or type it in.
Anton, how have you been?
Life is good, my friend. How are you?
Good. How's the little one? I haven't talked to you since forever. So,
We moved last week, so
Really?
the little one is good. Both little ones are good. We've got a 3-year-old and 1-year-old, but
Wait a
yeah,
minute. Okay, the last I knew you had a 3-year-old, or she was 1 the last time I talked.
she was, yeah. Well,
Oh, anyways.
they grow quick. But,
They do, my friend. And life has thrown me some curveballs, and I've had to restructure the company, but that's not my question. Here I am back to you on a different plane. I have been pursuing a tax mitigation attorney / CPA that is no longer practicing for his own business. And during our conversation, he said, well, at one point in time, we talked about you had other avenues available for professional help for me as a tax or as a attorney. I went, okay. And so we started talking about, all of a sudden I realized that he does ESOPs, and it's time now for him to do 15 or 20 stock or business valuations. And he said, well, I saw that on that talking point that you showed me. Can we get together and work out an agreement like you would with your CPAs so that we can come on board and we can use your CIQ? I went,
love it.
Yeah, I said, love it. But I don't have any formal agreement like we do with the CPA, you know, our engagement agreement that I can say, here you go, Tom, this is how we do this. So that's where I'm kind of stuck at this point. And at the same time, I don't know that I'd want to put him in touch with the Facebook group, but I'm sure that he'd want to have access to a CIQ link.
Yeah. CIQ link's not a problem.
Okay.
As long as you're comfortable with it. I
I've
would just make sure, I think you're going down the right path though, because ultimately what you want to just make sure is you've both clearly defined your interests and the win-win.
Great. And we're about 2/3 of the way in that conversation.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he's brought it to my attention that, you know, yeah, he's an accountant, but he's not practicing, so we need to bring a CPA into the mix. And I went, okay, no problem there. Some of them have CPAs, some of them don't. Some of them don't want to work with us. I said, okay, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But I'm looking at it going, I don't really have an engagement agreement with a professional of this nature.
Yeah.
I
think I have something that would work well for that.
Okay.
Happy to send it to you.
That'd be awesome. Now, what do you think about training on him?
So let me finish that first thought for a second, and then let's talk about the training. So if you want to shoot an email to support@elitert.com and just say, on today's group Q&A call, I referenced a template agreement that I thought might be helpful, I'll make sure that gets to you. And then, so this is kind of falling into the category of, here, let me share my screen. Stop my screen and then share it again. One of the things that I have found works really well is building, and many of you have heard us talk about this, but building a local team, like not just an accountant. But I think the advisor and the accountant are like, if you're playing 2-on-2 pickup, like you need those 2 positions first. But from there, you want to start recruiting other people on your core team. A good attorney is an example of one of them. Not that they need to be the best and compete with like the Jim Dugans and the Craig Craig Stones that are on our team. You can always leverage them, but you want a good local relationship.
Mhm.
So in this way, you're kind of, you found that person first. Great. The fact that they have relationships with CPAs, or you're going to run into clients that have other relationships with CPAs is really good. I think you want to have 1 or 2 CPA relationships in addition to this attorney, and kind of always think about it like a stool, that you sit on. You got
Really good. Yeah.
you
stool.
need 3 or 4, of those legs to make it really firm.
Right.
That was always the best outcome that I found at meetings, is when I sat down with a good client and his CPA was on my team and his attorney was on my team. And so it's like the 3 of us plus the client,
Mhm.
what else do you need at the table? So I think that the part of the focus for you, Ralph, should be, how do we leverage each other's relationships to make sure we get another player to our local team as quick as possible, which should be a good CPA that is practicing. And then the 3 of you get on the same page in terms of taking the clients through the CIQ, the follow-up communication and analyzing opportunities. And then in terms of training for the attorney, it doesn't need to be that different from what you give access to the CPA. You're welcome to give them, so we have that accountant training portal.
Mhm.
You're welcome to give them access to in that same email to support. Just reference, if you want them to have access already, just his name and email.
Mhm.
We can get them access to that. The Elite Growth Academies, even though we primarily say growth-minded accountants and advisors, we have attorneys that attend that, and a lot of good topics there. So I think I don't see any issues, other than, again, just making sure that you're on the same page in terms of your intentions
Mhm.
and ideal outcome. Like, how is everybody getting compensated, and how are we splitting that up?
Right. We started that compensation conversation. So I know that they're not a broker. They don't have their insurance license or anything of that nature. So they understand that can't be shared, but we can talk about the other fees. That's no problem there either. I think it's a great combination going forward. I just want to make sure we've got something in writing, as we should have, right? Make sure that we both understand where we're going from there.
Totally makes sense.
But
Yep.
so now you have a 1-year-old. And boy, girl, I'm excited for you. I really am.
Thank you. Yeah, girl, 1-year-old girl. Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. I'll keep him track now. So.
And
Very good.
Anton,
Yes, Kirk.
as a follow-up with what you were saying, if we have an attorney who we think might be a good fit, where are you saying that we would have him look at our website for what the CPAs are looking at, or?
You could. So here's what let me just pull this up real quick. Going back to the CPA meeting script, it's obviously a little bit different at the opening here when we're asking about some of these things, like what % of your clients are W-2 versus business owners? How are you getting new clients? How are you charging your clients? It's going to be a little different for an attorney, but very similar overall when you get into kind of the bigger questions, which is, what are your challenges? Where are you trying to go? And then essentially, what's stopping you from getting there on your own, or why haven't you done it up to this point? So that's, even if it's an attorney, it's a business banker, it's one of our clients. I mean, that's always in my mind a very easy place to take conversations. And that's really, when you think about like a coach, a consultant typically comes in and deals with one specific situation. Like, they come in, you can pay them, and they'll get in, they'll get it done, and they're out. A coach typically runs alongside with you. So when I think about any kind of relationship, I really want to know 3 things. And even if I was just sitting down with one of you individually and you were paying me, this is where I would start. I'd want to know, A, really define for me where you are right now. I'd want to know B, which is, tell me where you're trying to go. What does this ideally look like? And then I want to know C, which is kind of twofold. One, what's the issues? That's like a little blocker. What's the issues currently that help you get from where you are to where you're trying to go? And then can I, either between my expertise or my team that I've plugged into, can I actually help you address some of these problems and get you from A to B? And if you can, then that's what you focus on in the relationship, is how you can help them get there.
And a question about that. What I have experienced with CPAs is they don't have a strong statement of where they want to go. And
Yeah.
I get the hunch this just because they're like always spinning plates. They're like, I don't have time.
Yeah.
What do you do with that when they don't give you a strong statement?
It's because they don't have it, right? Like you said. So I think you spend a little bit of time just, and when I say a little bit of time, obviously it's not an appropriate amount to really get that vision clear, because that takes hours, but it's a few minutes kind of digging into it a little bit. Like, you want to be a one-person shop, or are you looking to add junior accountants under you? Do you want to keep working until, whatever forces you to quit, or you got 6 more years because that's the time that the youngest one is out of college, and then you want to go part-time? Like, just spending, what are the types of clients that you want to be working with? Like, who do you enjoy working with? Just spending some time helping them get a little bit of clarity around that. And that's enough to kind of start the relationship, I think. I saw one of the questions, I think it was Peter asked, do we have any resources to help CPAs gain clarity on their vision and then move more towards the value-based billing? Or at least Peter's question was move more towards the value-based billing. And I think Eric's question is kind of related. So at the end of 2020, we acquired a company called Hayden Rock. If you haven't heard of them before, they are really good company that does basically consulting and training for accountants. And it was primarily started by Paul Latham, who is now one of my partners at Elite. And they're a good firm if a CPA is like, I love all of this, and I want to know if there's any other resources you have or anyone else that could help me with the value-based billing aspect. So you could check out Hayden Rock. They could pay Hayden Rock to help them get clarity on their vision and more successfully implement some accounting best practices. Paul does what's called a vision workshop, which typically takes between 2 to 3 hours with the accountant. And it's exactly this. It's literally spending 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 hours going through, where are you right now? Where are you trying to get to? And then putting together a one-page plan to get there. And Paul's really talented at leading that conversation. So, for me to do it, it'd be 6 hours or something. So it's a vision workshop that they can hire Hayden Rock to do with them if they want. Part of the reason we acquired them was because we wanted to take all of Hayden Rock's IP, their skill set, their coaches. They have a handful of coaches that are accountants as well. And we wanted to be able to offer them to accountants through Elite, through our mastermind community. So for people that are in the mastermind, they have all of the access to the Hayden Rock training for their accountants for free. So that way the accountants that come to the table and are like, yeah, I love this stuff. Do you have somebody who's an expert that can actually help me with it? Then we can say, yes, we do. And we actually have access to that for free for you.
So did you say if I join Elite Mastermind, Hayden Rock is accessible for free to my accountants?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you're not, it's, you can still access them. It's just, the accountants have to pay, or you could split the cost with them if you want. It's obviously, it's a great investment, because the more bought in you can get an accountant, and the more dependent, the more they rely on you in their business model, the stickier that relationship obviously is.
Okay. Do you find that accountants don't want to think in terms of vision, or do you find overwhelmingly that they're just too
Just time.
Just time?
spinning too many plates and not the time. But that's why when you can say, you can sit down with an accountant that started, grew, and sold an accounting firm for $45 million. You can sit down with them for 3 hours to really map out what you're trying to build here. Like, why are you spending this time? You know, life's short, life's precious. It's not just for a paycheck, hopefully. Like, what are you trying to build? Why are you doing this? It's been so long since I've even thought about that. Well, it's probably a good, good thing to think about.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you can help them clarify their vision, and then obviously the reason Paul does it is because we're helping them realize that the vision that they want and the one-page plan that they create is 100% dependent on you and your relationship with them. So it's like you then become the critical piece of helping them get from where they are to where they're trying to go. You know, that's the partnership with you.
Okay, they can't get there using the old model, basically.
No.
If they could, they would be already.
Yeah, try crossing the Rockies with a, horse and carriage. It's an outdated model that's not going to get them to where they want to go. It's like the Einstein quote: the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results,
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Thanks. These calls are so helpful, just to those little tidbits right there. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Anything else? I know I saw Christy dropped. I think she had a meeting at the top of the hour, but anything else before we wrap up?
I do. I have a question, Anton. I have
Sure.
been doing a lot of networking. I'm in a new area, and I met a health insurance agent. Literally, him and his partner have been doing group health insurance for over 20 years, and they've transitioned none of their business. They've tried sending out flyers for life insurance, and they did one or two little things. And so in my mind, I feel like this is kind of a backdoor way to open up those CPA relationships. And he and I are getting together tomorrow. And I said, you know what? And maybe I'm off here, but I said, let's get together next week, because he loved the idea of expanding. I told him I can help him open up and transition his practice. I said, let me, why don't you show me one or two of your average clients, like we kind of learned in the training, not the big guys, not the, just your average client, and let's kind of go through. And I thought maybe I'd go through like a mock CIQ to see what he knows of them and just kind of give him a big picture. I mean, am I on the right track? What would you say to guide me on that?
Yes, you absolutely are. I would say huge opportunity. We see that also with PNC firms. They haven't done a good job necessarily of broadening their services to those clients. The only thing I would say is at some point you're likely to run into the same issue, which is why many of you joined the training to begin with. There's going to be a CPA ultimately involved. And so I would just proactively recognize that these can start the conversations. Use the CIQ, and then in the CIQ, for those of you that have seen me do the advisor CIQ review, we ask, who's the CPA? How would you rate them? And then we ask for an introduction to the CPA. So that's essentially the process that you would want. Is you're going to build a relationship with this individual. You're going to start to have more proactive conversations with their clients that are ultimately going to lead to opportunity with the clients, plus introductions to the CPAs of those clients, and any CPAs that they currently know. They should bring those to the table as well.
Yeah, definitely not taking it to that next step. If we identify those opportunities, and immediately, this is what I've learned in this training, is immediately going to that CPA to get that endorsements and opening up that. Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
the point.
Yep. What's up, Bob?
Anton, just said in the chat, how do you know when it's too soon to walk away? Is it just from experience and doing it a few times?
That's a really good question. And yes, I mean, it is, there's probably a bit of art and a bit of science there. And then just ultimately, obviously, everyone has to make the decision that's kind of right for them. But so I would say there's a couple things though. One is, if if they've got either an ego or a personality where it doesn't make me enjoy being around them, or it doesn't add to my day. Like, you know, if I'm not looking forward to sitting down with them, if they're not making me feel good in terms of energy, I'm not interested in the relationship. It's ultimately going to cost me more than it's going to make me, even if I give up some low-hanging fruit. It's just the long term's not there. Also, then you get into a place, let's say we do like being around them, or at least it's neutral. We think we could grow a relationship, and then they're just slow to act, like they're not following through. That's okay. To me, that's more the situation that like Eric was referring to earlier, which is they have habits and patterns, and like it takes time to learn new things. So that one takes a little bit more time, you know? So that might be 6 months of like setting expectations and not following up on expectations. I think you just have to have some open dialogue along the way. Like, hey, last week we agreed you're going to send out your first 2 CIQs. We talked about sending them to Scott and Sally, and here we are a week later and they didn't get sent out. You know, give me an idea what's going on your side. Oh, I just got so busy with this deadline. Oh, okay, I totally get it. I know there's a lot going on right now, no problem. When do you think you can send those out by? Oh, I don't know, it's going to be a little busy. Okay, so what does that mean? Like next Thursday at this time? Do you need 2 Thursdays? 2 Thursdays, I can definitely get them. Okay, no problem. 2 Thursdays. Let's talk again. Scott and Sally. Scott and Sally doesn't get out. So like that's kind of the thing. It's like probably a 3 strikes and I'm out kind of thing. So out the gate, negative energy, too big an ego, not willing to be genuine, or like, I don't like working with them, I'm going to be gone. But if I do like them, they're just dragging their feet, I'm going to give them a couple shots, and then probably ultimately just decide it's not doing either of us any good.
Okay. No, that makes sense. So, and then I've got a couple bookkeeping payroll people that I could talk. Well, I'm going to have lunch with one of them. The idea was to get connected with maybe some accountants in their town, but they might be, if they're working with small business owners, they might be the person. So I just wanted to get your thought on that.
Yep, very good. So that's similar in a way to what Leah was asking with the relationship there. I think there's 2 ways to approach that. One is in week 2, there's this video professional relationship introductions. This is worth watching here, and it's just talking a little bit about like how we can go about building those relationships. So one is obviously we can get introductions to business owners or clients that might benefit from a more proactive, holistic planning team. The other is getting introductions to accountants that they know. And the way we want to position that is creating, you want to understand from their perspective what they want. What do they want? Well, they've got these, specifically when it comes to their accountant relationships. They've got accountant relationships, and it's likely that they're not getting like tons of great referrals a year. If they're willing to introduce us to those accountants, we can help those accountants improve their businesses, deliver more value to clients. And through that process, you're going to be uncovering opportunities with the CPA's clients where they need, did you say P&C or payroll? Payroll? You know,
bookkeeping and payroll.
Bookkeeping and payroll. So anytime I'm sitting down with an accountant, anytime I'm sitting down with a professional that could lead to an introduction to accountant, I'm basically positioning it like, I will build the relationship with the accountant. I'll do all the work, the heavy lifting. Like I've got a team, I've got a process, I've got scripts. I'll build that relationship. Every time the 2 of us are working through a new case or client together, and payroll or bookkeeping needs come up on my proprietary software, which it does, I will bring those opportunities back to you because you made that introduction. So in essence, you are inviting them to be part of your local team, and all they need to do is introduce you to the CPA based on this, on the email template that you're going to send them. Right, that's in week 5, how to get introductions to CPAs. So they're going to introduce you. You're going to provide that email template to them. They're going to forward it and CC you. You're going to respond, and then you're kind of telling them, through this planning process, we're going to be uncovering more opportunities for bookkeeping and payroll, and I'm always going to bring those back to you. So that's the win-win-win there.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right. Good questions today. A lot of dialogue. Appreciate it. I think we can go ahead and wrap it up. Okay, hold on one sec. Joe is asking, link to the CPA videos giving testimonial of their work with ERT. So if you go to our website, elitert.com, go to reviews. The ones in blue here on the right-hand side are CPAs. So there's however many there are there. And then also, if you go to our YouTube channel, if you go to YouTube and just type in Elite Resource Team, and if you don't subscribe right now, I think, please do. We post videos probably once every 2 weeks, honestly. Try to do it once a week, but it's probably once every 2 weeks, just for free. And some of those are panel discussions that we've done with CPAs and advisors, and you'll hear some good feedback from the CPAs there too. So those are the two places you can get feedback.
Yeah, those are
testimonials.
amazing. I've been studying those, Anton. Those are phenomenal. Enjoy those so much.
Good, good, good. Thank you for that feedback. All right, very good, everyone. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Happy Thursday. If we don't connect again in the Facebook group or anything before the weekend, I hope you enjoy the weekend. We'll talk soon. Bye for now.